G'day. This lesson I'm going to look at some basic bar chord shapes. Just going to be looking at a couple of the major shapes. So we'll start with a few basics. I've got to assume that you know the open chords for an E shape. So where two fingers are in the same fret on the A and the D string, and then the G string, that finger is one fret below. We know that it's a pretty common guitar shape, an E shape, and it's named after the 6th string bass note, which is an E. So if we could play this shape in different places up the neck and it'll change its name, but we know it as an E because in this position it's named after whatever the 6th string is. And I'll also assume that we know an A shape, where these three fingers on the D string, the G string, and the B string are all lined up. And this shape is named after the 5th string bass note, which in this case is an A note. So pretty basic. Most guitar players are able to make that transition pretty quickly. I'll show you though, sometimes when I'm doing pretty fast transitions between an E and an A, there's a lazy A that rather than trying to cram all my fingers in a row on the same fret, I'm just going to squash my hand down. So it requires me to sort of rotate my wrist a bit. And really all I'm doing is I'm pretty well just using one finger to fret the same positions that these three fingers were doing. On those three strings, the 4th, 2nd and 3rd strings, it's just been covered by one finger. If that makes sense. Now the trick is I can't then play the E string if I'm fretting that note, because I'll get a Beatles chord. It's an A6, and if I don't want that, I'm going to have to avoid the top E string. So it's a lazy position for this hand, because you're just sort of squashing it down and not really moving from your E shape. I'm just squashing it down and letting the A note ring. So I'm taking my finger off the A string, squashing these ones down, but I need a little bit more precision in my strumming hand so that I don't hit the top string. So you wouldn't use it all the time. I just as often use a proper A shape that you would have been taught, because then it's easier to go for your A7ths and your A minors and other little variations. But as a really lazy, quick way, that's dead handy, is to be able to practice doing that. Just using one finger, really. So if you've got the handle of that, you probably know the principle of bar shapes is that you play these open chords with you form the same shape with your other fingers, and you leave this finger as a capo. However, I don't recommend that you use your 2nd, 3rd and 4th fingers to play these shapes, because it feels kind of awkward, because you're lifting this finger off, which is kind of undermining your grip. You haven't got the grip strength anymore if you lift your index finger off and not use it as a capo, trying to play an A shape or anything like that. So let's not think about trying to make the shapes here. Let's go straight to making your finger a capo. I'm going to put it on the 3rd fret, and that way you've got a strong grip. That's what you're going to practice, is getting a pretty flat grip between your thumb and your index finger. But you don't have to be super tight with you have to be super tight to be able to play all 6 strings. that's a bit of a strain, but remember that these other fingers are going to take some of the strain off. And the only notes that you're really hitting with your index finger are the bass notes. So it can be a bit more relaxed as long as it's hitting sort of the bottom two strings. These other fingers are going to take care of most of the other strings. So we're on the 3rd fret, and you've got to get used to placing. It's basically it's an E shape. 2 fingers on the 5th and 4th strings, and then on the G string it's 1 fret flatter than these ones were, and then there's your capo. So it's exactly the same as an E shape, which we've slid up, and now we're using our finger as a capo. And this shape, just like the E was, this shape is going to be named by whatever the 6th string bass note is, and in this case it's a G, because we're now on the 3rd fret. So this is a G chord. So it's quite handy to just get used to finding how you can place your capo and place those fingers precisely. It's going to take a little bit of time to get used to, but it's not much different to just putting down an E chord, but you're getting used to using your little finger and 4th finger much more precisely. And that shape can slide around a bit. You can sort of maybe try practicing, trying to place it in different positions, relaxing your grip to slide it down. You've still got to keep your fingers kind of rigid because they're all squashed together here. It's not too hard, but you don't want them to get too close if you slide up and down, or too spread apart, because then the chord will be wrong. So they keep relatively the same distance apart. But there's your G. And then we're going to do the lazy. I could do an A shape chord here with 3 fingers in a row. It is pretty cramped, and it's kind of awkward if you're starting out. So remember, we went from E to A here with our little flat lazy one. I'm going to do exactly the same thing here with the G. Just go to a flat lazy, squashing down those 3 strings. This index finger still has to take care of the bass strings. So we've got the index finger on the 3rd fret, the 2 strings there, and then this finger is flattening down the next 3 strings, and again, let's not play the top string. So that's what you're going to practice. So your E, your fingers kind of stay in the same position, so it's not too hard to come back to the E. You can just squash them down. This chord that we're playing with the lazy flatten it's now on the 5th fret and the third fret bar, it's going to be a C chord because this shape is named after the 5th string bass note. And now, because we're on the 3rd fret here, that's a C note. So that's what I would start to practice, trying to go from a G to a C. Seeing how precise you can be, how much pressure you have to push down. If it gets too much pressure, it's good to kind of relax, shake your hand out a bit. You'll notice when I'm playing, I'm often squashing down and I'm kind of relaxing as well to get that percussive strum. It's actually really handy because I'm gripping hard to get the clean chord, but then you want to relax your hand every so often while you're changing positions, and that's what these little percussive strums often end up giving you, that tiny little break, so you're not cramping your hand too much. Okay, G and a C. If we obviously if we slide this shape now up 2 frets, that's going to be a D chord from the C sharp to a D, and because that's now named after the 5th fret bass note, which is changed to a D. same as the D string. So let's play around now. We've got G and C, and then slide the two fingers up to a D, back to a C, and then reform this shape for the G chord. And I guess the next logical step would be your G chord could also slide up 2 frets, would make it an A chord now, because this shape is named after the 6th string bass note, which we're now playing is an A note on the 5th fret. So for now, that's as far as I'm going to go. We've got 2 different shapes. This is an E shape on the 3rd fret, and then this flattened one is an A shape. It's a lazy A, and we can play them in a couple of different positions. If you think of the bass notes, so here's on the 5th string there's a D. You think of them as being in a little rectangle. There, you start on there's your D note. You go down 2 frets. There's going to be a C note, and then you come down. So that's the top part of the rectangle, and then jump down a string. There's your G note, and up 2 frets again is your A note. That shape as being a little rectangle, it's really handy to remember that's the relationship of the chords. That ends up being a D, a C, and then you're going to change down to the 6th string bass notes, and it'll be a G, and then up again to an A. Playing the 5th string bass note shape, and then I'm swapping to the 6th string bass note shape, G and A. And yeah, I might as well tell you, power chords are exactly these sort of shapes. When you see electric guitar players just strumming really quickly, they're often just playing 2 strings. They're playing exactly that shape, that little bass note shape, and the chord, but they're only playing the bottom 2 strings of the chord. So I'm still making the same shape here, but I'm only playing 2 strings at a time. The 5th and the 4th string here, 5th and the 4th string. And so that's often an easy way to kind of quickly play chords without even putting your fingers on the rest of the strings. You're just strumming little power chords. But that's the lesson. 2 shapes to get your head around and how they're related. It's just on the same fret, flattening down and coming back to like an E shape relationship, and then slide between 2 frets higher, doing the same thing. And there's lots of different patterns you can make up with just those chords. D, A, G, and C. That's a lot to take in already. If you can get used to that, then you'll realise that you can do that same little box pattern anywhere you like. You pick another note up here somewhere, and it'll be the same relationship. So it's always exactly the same thing I'm playing. I've just happened to move it up the neck more. but and we'll learn the names of those chords later on. But there you go. There's your first lesson.